Hi, this is David with EV World News, where we talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I'm here today with Bill Moore, our founder. How you doing today, Bill?
Doing great, thank you.
All right, let's talk about this beta volt thing. You talk about this nuclear battery.
Yeah, that's interesting. A Chinese company headquartered in Beijing has announced that they have developed a battery that runs on nuclear fission, and apparently it has something to do with the beta decay from one state of the, I think it's nickel, I believe, or something that they're using. As it decays down, it gives off some minor voltage. This thing I think is 3 volts and 100 milliamps. So you're not going to power your car with it. You might power your cell phone or something with it for 50 years.
Converts energy released by decaying isotopes into
Yep.
energy. It was first explored in the 20th century. Wow, way back in the 20th century. I remember the 20th
Ages
century.
ago. Yeah.
I know, I know. Um, Scientists in the Soviet Union and the United States were able to develop the tech for use in spacecraft, underwater systems, and remote scientific stations. However, the thermonuclear batteries were both costly and bulky. Wow, that's really kind of crazy to think about. A 50-year
Yeah.
battery. Yeah, it's like, hey, what
Well,
could be
that's
worse than having a decaying isotope in the in my watch battery?
yeah. Well, it's a little. There's a. Let's see if I can show a picture of it here. I'll do my share screen thingy right there. No, that's not it. It's not showing it. Okay. Window. There we go. So there it is, right there, next to a. I'm
Hold on.
assuming that's a 5 UN coin. I tried to, among my collection of foreign coins, I have all kinds of foreign coins, but I do, and I have paper money from China. I just don't have any coinage money from China, so I couldn't show you what it is relative to what that battery is. But that's it. That's the battery. That's not the nice cardboard wrapping around the battery. That's the battery, and it divides into. There's graphics you can find on the internet that show it. But the idea is that this thing, will take, I guess, 50 years to decay to get down to the point to where it's not delivering 3 volts anymore.
Now
So
they made this statement: the atomic energy battery developed by Betavolt is absolutely safe, has no external radiation, and is suitable for uses in medical devices such as pacemakers, artificial hearts, and something I can't pronounce. Anyways, but that's kind of fascinating. Atomic energy batteries are environmentally friendly. After decay, the 63 isotopes turn into a stable isotope of copper, which is
okay.
non-radioactive, does not pose any threat or pollution to the environment. I don't know. Sounds like propaganda to me, Bill.
I'm yeah and I'm not the only one that's skeptical. I've got a link to another article that's a little skeptical of this. To be fair, that's what we're using, those thermonuclear type battery that you were talking about earlier. That's what's powering at least one, maybe both of the rovers on Mars.
Oh,
They
wow.
found that they couldn't use solar panels because of the dust on Mars, the dust collects on the panels, and the amount of energy that the panels can deliver to keep the vehicle running and all the electronics, warm and things like that, gets covered and eventually, becomes a piece of dead hardware on the surface of Mars. So they've gone over to these batteries that use sort of the heat coming off of radioactive decay to keep the vehicle electronics warm and to keep the batteries charged. So so
All
it
right.
you do it. It's just I don't know if I want a pacemaker. But what I'm wondering, because they're talking about getting this bigger, and I'm wondering Is that what we're going to power our robots by in the future?
That might be.
Yeah.
That might be. That'd
Who
be one
knows?
theory. Yeah. All
Not
right, let's
sure
go on.
that's even a good idea, though.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty fascinating, though. Let's
Yeah,
talk
it
about our
is.
main story today, the Renault Morphos SUV. This is the
Yeah.
Renault Transformer. That's what they should have called it, but I guess
Well,
that's probably
yeah,
what
yeah,
Morphos means in French.
it doesn't transfer into a convert into a transform into a robot, but it does get longer. So it goes from a city car to a over the road, sedan.
There it turns into a boat. There it turns
Yeah,
into a pretty girl. Oh, let's see what we got here.
yeah,
I like the yellow interior.
yeah. It's really pretty.
Let's see what we get.
I like Renault vehicles. I just think they're just cutting edge, funky enough that they appeal to me.
I want to see the thing extend.
Yeah, I do. There's a GIF animation. I tried to get it a copy of it. I couldn't pull it off. So, but basically, what happens is the front of that car. You see where that divide is between the front of the car and the cabin area.
Hmm.
That gets longer, and then at the back of the car, that extends out. So this thing, you can see the details in the articles, but basically, it gets maybe another foot and a half longer, something like that. Um, so yeah,
Here it is here.
yeah. There you go. There's showing it.
Well, I thought I would be showing it.
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
no.
There's the little animation down there on the photo to the right.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. So it extends into a slightly longer car, slightly longer
Maybe a
tail.
longer car, and
Oh,
apparently you can put a bigger battery in it then to drive further. So I mean, the battery is in it in the short version. Still, will do something about I think it was 250 kilometers.
oh, so
So
here's what. It's a
we're
fully
talking.
electric. It's a fully electric car. When it
Yep,
elongates, it creates room for an extra battery pack to be added.
yep.
I mean, the car has greater power and can range farther. And then at the longest extension, it adds a gas engine and another fuel tank. No, I made that up. It really doesn't.
Yeah,
But
no, no, no. It's yeah,
when it shrieks back down, it's a perfect runabout for the city. You know, it sometimes it's hard to appreciate some things. Like I'm a huge fan of the Costco parking lot. Okay, because I can go to Costco and they have these. It's not like just have the one line between the parking spaces. They have two lines in a big box where you're not supposed to park between the parking spaces. So you never have to worry about opening your door wide.
right,
And a tall
right.
guy like me can just stand and just climb right out. You never have
Yep,
to worry about somebody only parked 4 inches from your driver
yeah,
door like you do everywhere else. You
yeah.
know,
Like
and
Target or somewhere. Yeah,
yeah, and so maybe I'm a little spoiled by that. Okay, but you go. I'm assuming in Europe they have so much smaller cars. They probably have smaller parking spaces too. So this probably goes a long ways.
I don't know.
When I've been out to LA, the parking spots are so small. And sometimes you have to really maneuver so adeptly to get into where the parking spaces may be at a commercial space. I don't see anybody who drives a full-size pickup truck or like a Yukon or a Tahoe or something like that can
Yeah,
even park. I mean, it
yeah,
just seems like madness to have anything the size of a full-size truck in LA, and I'm sure European cities are probably much worse. So here's another one. We're starting. It's interesting because of the big argument. One of the big arguments is that only rich people can afford EVs, and we're starting to see. I really like that VinFast. That VinFast
hmm,
VF3. I think
right.
that's going to be a huge seller in the United States. I mean,
Yeah,
it looks good. I mean, like I'm always saying, Chevy and Ford have and others have gone out of their way to make EVs ugly. Okay, and the VinFast actually looks like a cool car. Okay, but next we're going to talk about Volkswagen. So Volkswagen's got this is a for the UK, but a 17,500 pound
yeah.
Volkswagen
Pound
ID1.
is in money, not in weight.
Yes, and
Pound
Bill was
sterling.
yeah, and you were saying earlier that that's roughly 22,000 US.
Right. It's about a little over 22,000 US. Yeah.
Yeah, and this isn't a bad looking car, although it says ID2 on the back.
Yeah, the ID1 isn't quite out. Well, I've got a photograph that yeah, I posted on the website that I believe is the ID1. It's a
Yeah,
little bit
that's
different looking, but yeah. So there's your pickup truck.
yeah. Yep, got a Chevy ad running there. No, I'm not
Yeah.
out shopping for a Chevy
Hey,
truck.
well, now, yeah, well, come on, we got to get out of there. We're not getting paid by them to do this. So,
No, I know. Um, let's
would you
see.
work on that?
Yeah, yeah. ID1 is going to go up against the Renault Twingo, which cost about the same price.
Yeah,
And
but what's interesting about that is Volkswagen and Renault have been in talks about producing cars for Volkswagen.
mhm.
And so the question that's being asked is basically the ID2 or ID1 going to be a collaboration? And but if there's going to be a collaboration, how do they compete against one another? Um, if they're selling essentially the same, different body style, but same chassis and drive system. So be interesting. We've got some time. I don't think they're going to roll the ID2 out until something like late 26 or 27.
Yeah, well, they're seeing the success of BYD, and so they've got to do this to stem the tide of
Oh
BYD just
yeah, no
taking over
kidding.
Europe.
All of the Europeans, yeah.
All the European automakers are
I
realizing
think I
what a
saw
threat
I
BYD is.
posted a story that there's something like in the last year there was more than 400,000 Chinese cars imported into Europe.
That doesn't really seem like a big number to me.
Well, starting from zero, that's not
Yeah.
too bad.
No, no, but I'm just saying,
Oh
they're,
well,
th
you know what part of the reason for that is they can't find enough car carrying ships to get them there.
well, there's always a danger they get hit by a anti-ship missile, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
if you go, yeah, get too close to Yemen or Somalia. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, you just never know. Um, so our oh, you wanted to talk a little bit about your experience driving a Fiat around
yeah. I
Omaha in the cold.
obviously there's been all kinds of attention all over the media about electric cars and how they perform in cold weather. And of course, as you and I know, here in Nebraska, we went for something like what 84 hours, 4 days or whatever it was, and the temperature never got above zero. And
Mhm.
we had temperatures, with wind chills in the minus 40. I walked out briefly, a short distance from that neighbor to that neighbor, and it was brutal. I had a face mask on and sunglasses and parka and a muff around my neck, and it hurt to walk half a block. So that's what minus 40 feels like. Um, so
I'm
I
concerned
had
how
some.
my coyotes are doing because
Yeah,
it
exactly.
seems
Poor
really
things.
it seems really cold to leave your coyotes outside.
So how did my little electric car do in this cold
Yes.
weather? Well, first of all, I have them. I have a garage. I'm fortunate to have an attached garage, so I can keep my car in the garage. The temperature in the garage when I went out and checked this morning, the temperature in the car indicated that it was 26 degrees in the garage. So it was never got below zero in the to my knowledge it got in the car. Um, but I had no problems. I just got in, drove off, didn't have to wait for the heater to the engine to warm up to get the heat running. Now that does take a it does take a hit on your range in the car. I'm running actually right now as we're speaking. I'm running an experiment because some of the comments that were being made by people, that were how do you deal with extreme cold like this, was that you should precondition the car, which means basically you take your app and you turn the car on while it's still plugged in, and you get the car cabin warmed up, and then that helps warm up the battery, and then you go charge because if that battery's been sitting in sub-zero weather, it's a brick. It's just like the frozen, uh, oil in your engine, in
Hmm.
your gasoline engine. So you want to get the car, the battery warmed up, and once you get it warmed up, then it can accept charge at pretty close to normal rate. Otherwise, it'll just take forever. So I'm running an experiment. I'm actually have the car plugged in, I have the car turned on, I have the heat running, and I know where I know where the battery was when I did that. So I'm going to, once we're done here, I'm going to go upstairs and see, well, did it just drain the battery, or did it actually give me some energy back? So it definitely has impacted the battery, no question. Normally I'll have anywhere from 90 to 100, as high as 120 miles driving range in the summer. Here this winter, it's been more like 70. And this morning when I went and checked it, it showed I think it was 61 miles of driving range. So it has a significant effect on it. But there are ways you can mitigate it. And again, it did not impact me. The car got up, ran fine. We did our grocery shopping yesterday and went to get our hair cut at the salon, and so we can get around, no problems. The car wasn't dead, but then I was able to have a nice place to keep it out of the weather. So that's that
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
In case
Your
anybody's
hair,
interested.
it's a good looking haircut, Bill. It's a good looking
Oh,
haircut. They did
thank
a good
you.
job. Yes.
Courtesy of Headliner's Salon in Papillion.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get tons of traffic. The EV space
Well,
isn't as big in
maybe I can get
Papillion
her
as
to sponsor us.
yeah. Um, anyways, let's see. Our last article day is about mining giants. Plot course for a
Yeah.
nature positive, whatever that means, nature positive sector by 2030. Now, you look at the size of these vehicles they're moving rocks with there,
And a
those
lot
things are
of those are
bigger than
becoming
anything
electric, by
imaginable.
the way.
Yes. And one of the reasons why they can be electric is because they can get electricity to the there and they can have a charging station there for them.
Yep.
And that's
They
got to
all
be,
be at the end of the shift. They all collect at one location. I don't know if they run these things 24/7 or not, but
I doubt that. I doubt that. Let's see what their key aims, their 5-point plan: protect and conserve pristine areas of the natural environment, including a ban on mining and exploration and World Heritage sites in legally designated protected areas. Achieve at least no net loss of biodiversity at all mine sites by closure against a 2020 baseline. Develop new partnerships to halt and reverse nature loss across the supply chain. Restore and enhance landscapes near operations, including with indigenous peoples, land connected peoples, and local communities. Catalyze wider change for nature recovery. Yeah, these all sound like buzzwords to me.
yeah,
I
they
don't
do,
know.
and that's the thing. It sounds great. The mining industry has been notorious for being a significant polluter and abuser of land rights and things like that. So whether they will honor that, and their shareholders will allow them to honor that, that's another. I hope they do. Really, guys, do it right.
Yeah. Well, I
But
don't want to be part of anybody's big propaganda machine.
yeah,
Okay.
yep.
I like to look for bias in some of these articles and, some of the things it's like, I really, you've seen how I've like had an opinion on one thing and then reversed on somebody after a while because I really think they're full of crap. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. It's interesting though to see because we get a lot of articles showing both sides of the EV space, and like we're talking about winter, and I have so many people tell me it's like, well, when it's 20 below zero, were you planning on driving to Denver? What were you planning on doing that an EV that the range issue would be such a big deal? I mean, if you're only going to drive 40 miles a day, the winter thing doesn't really
no, it's not a
play a huge
problem.
factor. But
Yeah,
you know, when it's this cold, you're probably not deciding to take a family to Chicago or something like that. So,
Exactly,
right.
exactly. It's not safe. You don't know what's going to happen. There's, some fool jackknifed his semi in the middle of the road, and it's just nah. Trips like that can wait till the weather gets nicer. That's my Now maybe some people have to go to get, medical appointments at the Mayo Clinic or, those kinds of things. That's understandable. In which case you probably want to look at renting a gas car.
Yeah.
Do instead of trying to take your electric. So just use common sense. That's all. That's all we're saying.
Yeah, the more and more I see articles on it, it may actually really to replace gas cars completely. It may take 50 years.
Oh yeah,
We're
would
still
would
at the forefront
wouldn't
of it.
surprise me. Look how
I've
long
heard,
it took for us to replace horses.
yep, that certainly took a while.
Hey, I do
Even,
what? Yeah, let me. I forgot about. Let me make a point here. Several years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Toronto, Canada for. I gave a talk at a mining conference,
mhm,
interestingly, and a guy that was there had built his own two-place sort of electric sports car, and this was in the winter time, and so I got to ride with him. And what he had in that car is because you don't want to drain the battery, which is what we've been talking about here, to run a radiant heater. So instead, what he had in that was this was made in Germany, a basically an ethanol burning heater in the car to heat the cabin of the car. So it didn't pull out of the battery. It just simply was a little burner engineered in Germany to provide heat for the cabin of the car. And so what I got to think, I said, well, why don't car makers offer that as an option for all of us who live north of the frost line, right?
right.
So one person was commenting, there's a story of a lady in Chicago who was just complaining, I'll never own a Tesla. It just because she was in Chicago and the car, had the range issues that everybody else was experiencing. And she
Mhm.
said, yeah, they're just good for, Texas and Arizona and California and Florida. Well, that may be true, but for people like us living north of that, wouldn't it be nice if could have the option to go into the dealer and say, look, I want to order this, whatever it is, Chevy or Ford or whatever, and I want the ethanol option, the ethanol burner option. Now, engineering is probably crazy. You couldn't do it. But from a farm perspective, right? They just had the caucuses over there on this side of the river, in Iowa. And there
Right.
is, a particular candidate who shall go unnamed who's talking about you've got this liquid solid gold under which he's referring to corn, right?
Mhm.
So here's the perfect cycle. You grow corn through the spring and summer, you harvest it in the fall, you convert it into ethanol for the winter, and guess what? You got a ready market for the fuel to run those heaters in all those electric cars that need heat in the wintertime.
And that would be clean burning.
And be clean burning, yeah.
You know, here I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the show. The E85 gas experiment. The flex fuel. You still see
Yeah.
cars that say
I
flex fuel in
actually
the back.
ran one. I converted a pickup truck to do that.
Oh, I feel bad for you. What a disappointment that had to be.
Well, it's not a I mean, it works.
Yeah.
It's just that there's not as much energy in the ethanol, so you got to refuel more. You don't get the same fuel economy or mileage that you would out of a normal tank of gasoline. So
No, it's like you get a third less mileage
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's only like 10% cheaper.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's like that didn't do well.
And
That
and
was really
and don't get me started on the environmental energy efficiency return on investment question. So
okay. Well, we
but
won't.
anyway, if you want to appeal to Iowa farmers, hey, here's a way to do that. You make ethanol available to burn in the heater in your electric car.
Yeah. I sure wish, some of the politicians would stop considering EV to be this big debate because it's happening whether people want it or not.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
You know, it's not really a debatable issue. I see people say stuff. It's like, look, you can say what you want, but all the car companies are switching to making electric cars. And I spend a lot of time talking to people in the UK, and there it's a big reality. 2030, no more gas only
Yep.
cars will be sold
Yep.
new,
Yep.
and that's still 6 years away. But I suspect they'll probably actually achieve that even sooner. I suspect they'll have figured out how to make everything at least at a minimum a plug-in hybrid by then.
Yeah.
So, we'll see where that goes. Anyways, everybody, thanks for listening in. Be sure to
Yeah. Thank
hit
you.
the like button so other people will it'll show this to more people. Anyways, and Bill, we're going to go